Hey guys, this is the Card Theorist, and today I've compiled 5 tips to help you improve your magic and your performances. This is based on some of my own experiences and some of the words that other people have said. And really, I just hope to improve your magic and even help you answer some problematic people you may find during your performances. And without further intro, let's move on. Alright guys, so this tip is going to be a little bit ironic, but I highly recommend that you don't use YouTube as a resource for too much and instead focus on books. Now, I like to post a lot of tutorials on this channel, but it's really just kind of like a supplement, like little things you can pick up on your journey. But if you want to make it big in Magic, I'd highly recommend that you read some books. Not just on sites, on things like showmanship, theory, and other stuff. So I personally recommend starting out the Royal Road to Card Magic. This is a great book for beginners, and honestly, I just really like this book. It's very timeless. If you like gambling and advanced trick, The Expert at the Card Table is great. And for kind of like music theory and technique, I personally used these two books, Strong Magic and Designing Miracles by Darwin Ortiz. Those two books are very good, and they teach you thinking about magic in different ways. There are also plenty of other books, like I hear Card College, Tarbell is good. I believe there's also a forum on Theory 11 on what magic books to read. I'll link that in the description. But yeah, really just try to use YouTube as a resource, but make sure that you're reading a little bit to improve your magic, because all magicians are eternal students. Alright guys, so my next tip is going to be try not to perform the same trick twice. And this is for a couple of reasons. You can kind of think of magic tricks as jokes. For example, the first time I tell you a joke, it's very funny because I'm subverting your expectations and you kind of don't really know what's happening. And magic's kind of the same way. You're performing a trick, fooling them, and making this really cool thing happen. But when you do it the second time, the spectator already knows what's going to happen, and that eliminates a lot of the fun. And on the second time, they're less focused on actually enjoying the effect and really just more focused on how you did it. That being said, sometimes, if you are absolutely confident that the spectator won't catch you out the second time you do a trick, you can do it to increase the conviction. Because just like a magic trick, you can also compare it to movies. Sometimes when a movie is really good, you will like to watch it a second time. Sometimes magic effects are like that too. So basically, if you deem it reasonable, feel free to perform a magic trick twice, especially if you have a different way of doing it, and you're absolutely confident that your spectator will not catch you, because do note that performing a trick the second time right after the first time is going to be a lot more difficult because they're going to be paying a lot more attention. Alright guys, so when performing, I'd highly recommend that you start by performing for your friends and families. And that's really because they're a lot safer than strangers, and you know that if you mess up or you do anything wrong, they'll kind of forgive you for it. But really, try and make sure you analyze the reactions and see which tricks you can work well. So basically use them as like your testing subjects. So see if an effect strongly plays out, see if it doesn't, see what you need to change, and try to use their reactions and their feedback to improve your tricks. And of course, if they don't like magic, then you probably shouldn't force it on them, and you should try performing on someone else, because there's not really a point in performing magic for someone who doesn't really enjoy it. But really, I'd also like you to know that a complicated method doesn't necessarily lead to a strong effect. For example, I performed very strong effects like, say, Triumph, cards across routines, and I've also gotten lesser reactions of that from when I performed the wallet trick in my video, the easiest card trick ever, where literally they stopped at any card. I placed a wallet down, it had a prediction, and they just turned over a card. And of course, that trick had basically no sleight of hand, and yet it played out strongly than the other two effects that I mentioned. Obviously, it could depend on the person, but really, just note that what happens to the audience is what matters the most, the effect. For my fourth tip, I'd like to ask you to try and develop your own personality and find tricks to center around that. For example, if you like to perform card tricks regarding comedy, you might like, say, Design for Laughter or the circus card trick. And maybe to accommodate that personality, you might have some funny gags to say, or maybe you just wear a funny shirt to school. Just basically establish yourself as your own person. Usually, when beginner magicians go on YouTube or read books, they might perform a trick exactly the same way as it was laid out for them, and with the exact same pattern lines. And usually, that's okay to do in the beginning, but eventually you're going to want to become your own person. Going back to that one-liners thing, here's a clip from Daryl's ambitious card. Essentially, all you need to know from this is that the ambitious card trick is a trick in which the ambitious card, just like the card, goes back to the top in a variety of ways. But Daryl's use of patter introduces a very funny situation, and I thought it was really funny.
Watch the card very closely. Not yet. It goes into the middle, but to be even more fair, I will place it in the middle of all of these cards, then all of these into the middle of all of these cards. Now it's hopelessly lost until, of course, I snap the fingers. Then it jumps back up to the top once again, cleverly disguising itself on the way. No, perhaps the deck didn't hear me. Here, let me start again. There's the 10. If I snap it like this and give it a little squeeze, it turns into the 2 of hearts. Are there any questions up to this point?
For my fourth tip, I'd like to address problematic people that you may find. So sometimes you will encounter people who challenge you, tell you to turn over the top card, shuffle the deck. Maybe some people like to say, "Oh, I know how you did that," and their explanation is completely wrong. Or some people who just throw insults at you outright. So first of all, for the insults and thing, I'd highly recommend that you ignore them. And if you have to, just leave and stop performing for them. And of course, don't adopt the challenge mindset. So basically, try not to make it feel like you're ridiculing the spectator or doing anything to make the spectator feel stupid. And that's probably the best way to avoid hecklers and that kind of thing. And honestly, true hecklers are really hard to find. You probably won't find many people who would outright insult you during your magic tricks. However, the challenge thing, sometimes people will approach your tricks with some healthy suspicion. And my advice for that is to subtly eliminate any possibility of that happening. So for example, if there is a valid concern, maybe you have a setup deck, maybe you're running duplicates, and that really is a valid concern to the audience, try to subtly eliminate any possibility of that happening. For example, a trick in which, like a force deck, a deck in which you're running all duplicates would be any card in any number. So sometimes your audience will suspect that you're running a duplicate. So say you found the card right here, say this is the card, and that you've scrolled to this card through magic. And to subtly prove that you're not running any duplicates, you might show like, look, if you said one card below, you'd have gotten a different card, and one card above, you would also gotten a different card. You can also spread the deck saying, look, you can also select any card you want. Just name any card that is in a standard 52 cards deck. That will also subtly eliminate any suspicion of having duplicates. Sometimes the spectators might also suspect you of hiding stuff in your sleeves. Now, magicians know that's kind of a myth, but it's also a very easy suspicion to get rid of. You would simply just roll up your sleeve. And that might give you some extra conviction in your magic tricks. One last thing before I end this video. I'd like to remind you that you should always be courageous, make sure you don't mess anything up, and always practice. And of course, you probably are going to mess up a card trick at some point. If that happens, make sure to stay cool. And besides, I already know that it's going to happen. The only person I know who's never messed up a card trick is Buford the Monkey, who I featured in a video in my channel, and he has never messed up a card trick because he has never performed. Jokes aside, I hope this video helped you in your future performances, and I hope you enjoy your stay here at the Card Theorist. Thank you, and I'll see you in future videos. Goodbye.